G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Today I have another page in 10, part of my YouTube series where we complete journal pages together in 10 minutes or less, or more. You really don't have to. I'm going to do it in 10 minutes. We'll set the timer, get our supplies in our hands and using them in our journals. Just having a good day. If you just want to be prompted along, there's a ton of other videos in this series and a whole playlist you can follow along with if you'd like to spend longer than 10 minutes with me. Otherwise, we'll just do this one for today and I'll let you choose what you do for the rest of it. Okay, let's get into what we need. Obviously we need your journal. We're going to do a full page on this one. I'm also going to use these Tombow brush markers, and I have a whole rainbow assortment here. I'm not going to go into the colors because it's not really necessary, but I would just suggest that you have a rainbow set, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, maybe brown as well if you're going to do exactly what I'm going to do. You also need one lighter version of the color, one darker version of the color, and a black. We're going to use a black as well. I'm going to use this brush pen because why not? So that's all you'll need. Perhaps a pencil if you want to do the little sectioning that I'm going to do at the start. It's just a simple pattern exercise, but it's going to be a little narrative pattern of a favorite movie of mine, The Wizard of Oz. So that's why we've got all those colors there, because we're going to need everything. I'm going to set my timer and then we'll just get right into it. So hopefully you're ready. Set timer for 10 minutes. There we go. Okay, we need to section this off with 7 lines. I'm actually only going to use the gridded part of my Hobonichi planner here, and I've got some washi tape. I'm going to do this just to have really neat edges. You really don't have to do this, but I just want to see it really neat because my sketches were pretty messy. Now I'm curious to see it neat. So I just like to put washi tape down just to mask off a little border. And there's a little grid on these planners, so I can follow those lines and I don't really need a ruler. But if you would like one, just grab one. And my only tip for this section is if you're using washi tape or like blue painter's tape or masking tape, whatever, just push the edges down, otherwise there's kind of no point because everything will seep underneath it if you don't press those down. We need to put 7 lines on here and they're going to section off. They don't have to be equal sections either, so I'm just going to make mine a little bit random. I'm going to use this line here and follow the grid that I already have on my page. There's 1, I'll go down here 2, a little one, 3, bigger one, 4, smaller one, 5, even tinier one, 6, and then split those down there. There you go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections, which means there's 7 lines. I'm doing a narrative that is about patterns, so I just kind of went through the movie and thought about the things that were relevant to the narrative, and I'm going to depict those in each of these. It's almost like when we're finished, we'll be left with 8 strips of washi tape that kind of tell the movie or the story in patterns. So the first thing I'm going to do is rainbows, because over the rainbow, right? I'm going to use my red. I'm going straight in. With things like this, where there's a certain amount of colors you have to fit in a space, I'll usually go from the first color to the last color and then work in between. So there's red at the end and purple at the end. And then we have red, orange. Now these Tombow markers are water-based. They will slightly blend with each other, but they're also good to layer on top of each other. You can see some nice transparent layers. Red, orange, yellow, green. I like that they're transparent because they slightly layer over each other really nicely. Blue and the purple. And can you see how you get that secondary mix? Like the blue and the purple together make a darker purple. So that's how I think is the best way just to approach it. Nothing too crazy because we've only got 10 minutes. We can't spend forever doing it. The rainbow, I was also thinking it is Emerald City. I don't know why that came into my mind next, but I'm going to start with the lightest color of green. So I've got this minty green here. I'm going to fill the next section. And then I want to put a pattern over the top of it. These stripes work for the rainbow, so I don't really need a pattern there. But for the, what's it called, Emerald City, all of the shapes of the buildings are kind of scalloped. They're like really long rectangles with little rounded edges. To me that's a scallop. So I'm just going to do a scalloped pattern inside, really simply to suggest Emerald City. They are just suggestions. I don't recommend you get too carried away with it, unless this is something you want to go and spend a lot more time with. If you want to do a different movie, I just encourage you to think of the scenes or parts of the story that stick out to you. And some of them might be easy to translate into a color and a pattern, some of them might not be. Like for instance, the poppies. I really like the poppies. It's tempting just to draw red flowers, but I want to really abstract the whole thing, just so I'm not spent 500 years doing it. So I'm just going to put the color red down. And poppies have those black centers, so I'm just going to do the center of the poppy. I'll do it under each one of these loops just to kind of keep it a little uniform. And then I'm going to scribble a line around it in a circle. These will represent poppies, so I don't have to do anything realistic. But there's my poppies. We'll put them to sleep. The next part, probably the most iconic, right? The yellow brick road. So I'm going to use a yellow, a really light yellow, for the background. I'll show you a little trick to do brick patterning really quickly. This will probably only work if you've got a chisel tip marker or one of these really long stemmed Tombow markers. If you grab your marker and you lay it flat and it's got one of these long tips, you can make kind of a rectangle shape. So you want to lay your rectangles with a little gap between each one, and then just travel across the page. And then when you go and take your next step upwards, you want to start halfway between that rectangle and finish halfway between the next one. And then you leave your gap, start halfway, and finish at the halfway point. And this is how you make that repeating brick pattern. You just keep doing it, you keep going to the halfway points of each rectangle. I find it a lot easier to do it with a brush pen or a marker than to actually draw it out. If you really want to pop the edge of the brick, grab a little brown and just make a backwards L shape on each rectangle. So you're going to trace down the right hand side of it and the bottom side of it. This will give it a slight shadow, and you'll see the brick raised up from the background. If you really wanted it to look like it was receding, the background and the bricks, you probably could have done the yellow, the darker yellow in the background, the lighter yellow in the foreground, but you would have had to leave all that negative space. So this is one of those decisions that I make that is literally time sensitive. So I just decided to flip the yellows because in essence, we just need to see the brick pattern. It doesn't need to look super realistic, but just letting you know, those are the things that go through my head, just in case you're wondering. We have red again for the ruby slippers. See how much time we've got left. We've got 3 minutes left, we have to hurry up a little bit. Underneath the ruby slippers, we have black and white stripes. So I'm just going to use my black brush pen. This is a Pentel pigment brush pen with black ink. It's waterproof. I really like it. Underneath that, I'm going to use a pink. Try not to get this black caught up in that tip. I'm going to use a pink for Glinda, a really light pink. I'll come back over it with a pink circle in a second. And then underneath that, a light brown for when it goes from sepia to color. And I'm going to use a darker brown to do a twisting loop pattern for It's a Twister. Now in the, oh, I forgot to tell you, you might need a white pen or a white paint marker to do little diamond shapes for the twinkles in the ruby slippers. And then grab a pink marker, you could use one of your dot markers, and just do circle pattern for Glinda's bubble. This is a touch out of order, considering if you're going to read the narrative from bottom to top, but it's okay. It's all representative, right? I'm going to peel up the tape. Oh, I've got to be careful because this is stuck now. I probably should have used a heat tool to try and heat up the back. It's easier to peel it off if the sticky part is activated by heat. So, whoops. I'm just being impatient because I know the timer's about to go off. That's okay. I guess it's finished so I can take my time. If you would like to, you could grab a little strip of white paper, or you could write it at the top or over one of these. I would write a quote or something you like from the movie. So I'm going to write "There's no place like home," which is very appropriate because I'm always feeling a little homesick. There we go. Oh, I love it. Looks fantastic. It is just a little narrative in, I guess, faux washi strips. But we looked at the transparency of those markers, representing things as simple patterns and simple colors. You'd be surprised about how many of like your favorite movies and stories can be translated this way into color palettes and specific design motifs and patterns and stuff. This says I've got 50 seconds left, so I'm just going to call it quits now, I guess, because I've already done it, right? Is that fine? This is the first time I've finished early. Good for us. Where is the timer on this thing? Okay, cancel. Great. Well, we're officially finished. Yeah, there's a lot that you can do this way. Alice in Wonderland is a good one. You've got the Queen of Hearts, who has that chevron pattern. You've got Alice, who is a very specific color palette with the yellow, blue, and white. You have Tweedledee, Tweedledum. The Cheshire Cat, purple and pink stripes. I always love to go to Alice in Wonderland as a reference, or especially a lot of Disney movies, specifically because when animators or like when people are putting together those movies, there's a lot of attention paid to diversifying characters from one another, so that audiences, especially child audiences, can distinguish between characters. And so there's usually, each character has its own specific motifs or its own specific color palette or its own specific look or characteristics, just so you can really differentiate between them if they're main characters, and that's what the director wants to do. So it always really works well for children's movies or movies aimed at children, but it also works for movies like The Wizard of Oz because there's such iconic imagery involved. But I'd be curious to see what you could come up with as well. I'd just love to see what you might come up with. So let me know how you get on. Tag me with, or tag everybody, I guess, because I know lots of people are starting to follow the hashtag. Tag a page in 10. I'll put it on the screen there, and we will see what you come up with this little, I guess, washi strip narrative. Does it need a title? I don't think it needs a title, but if you're going to call it something, call it that. Alright, thanks for joining me for another video. I'll see you again soon. Until then, bye.